We're joined now by Nick Alberga. He's the host of Leafs Morning Take for the Nation Network in Canada. He's also found on Twitter at The Golden Muzzy. Nick, great to see you again. The Friday deadline for the NHL trades passed. 21 deals on Friday alone involving 34 players, but those were kind of minor in the big picture when we saw all the movement leading up to the deadline.
Yeah, Mike, I would say it was more of a deadline, at least on Friday. But having said that, as we know, just chaotic times in the NHL world, very symbolic and similar, I would say, to the NBA story in the past, even Major League Baseball and that deadline. The last couple weeks were totally insane, so I was not shocked at all. We didn't see much movement today of significance, at least.
Well, let's talk about the Metropolitan Division. Obviously, the big interest in the state of North Carolina. The Hurricanes, playing as we speak, they did just 2 deals, acquiring Shane Gostisbehere and Jesse Puljujarvi from Edmonton, Gostisbehere from Arizona. Did they do enough?
Well, the proof will be in the pudding. Not to dance around your question. I have a lot of faith in the Carolina Hurricanes. I like their goaltending. I like their back end. I love their depth up front. I think in a perfect world, they would have loved to add a top 6 center. I think atop their list had to be Bo Horvat. I know for a fact they were involved in the Timo Meier discussions, but I like them because they have a price, and if you want to go over that price, then they're not going to do business with you. So they pick up Puljujarvi. He's more of a reclamation project, but again, he's got the friendship and he knows a lot of the guys on that team, especially the Finns. So maybe that works out for them. And Shane Gostisbehere is a nice piece of insurance, specifically in terms of power play and helping that out, because that's the one thing that has plagued this Carolina team when the games have mattered the most the last couple of years in the Stanley Cup playoffs is the power play. Burns has helped from that avenue, and I think Gostisbehere is going to help boost that as well. So I do think they've done enough. In a perfect world, you want to do a bit more, but unfortunately they couldn't. But I do think Carolina has a legit shot at winning the Cup this year.
Well, and to go off of that, did they do enough question? When you look around the rest of the Metro, you just mentioned Timo Meier. The Devils won that sweepstakes, and they're going into play on Friday just a point behind Carolina. Devils are a team that has to be reckoned with, I would think.
You do, and I think to piggyback what you're saying is I think you don't want to run the risk of being reactionary to the teams around you. It's very similar to the team I cover on a daily basis in Toronto, where you see Tampa and Boston making moves around you. You feel like this need to react, and I credit Carolina for not reacting. Quite frankly, they made their moves, and that was good enough. And I think, Mike, in general, you look at the Metropolitan Division. You want to talk about mayhem? It's been an arms race of superstar. Going into that market, you talked about the New Jersey Devils there. They pick up Timo Meier, a guy who has been on the San Jose Sharks, on pace for 45 goals, prorated over an 82-game slate. He's an awesome player, but I like the fact that Carolina has that confidence. They've built this puppy up from the ground up for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they have a lot of confidence, and they should. I think they've made a lot of their moves clearly in the offseason, but no doubt the Devils got better with that acquisition.
Before we got started, you and I were chatting, and you said, how often do you see big-time acquisitions pan out in terms of winning a Stanley Cup? New York Rangers fall into that category, adding Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. You look at their 2 power play units that were on the ice against Ottawa in a 5-3 loss on Thursday. They are loaded. I mean, it just seems like if they gel together, that team could be a problem for Carolina.
There's no question, but I will say this is not the NBA. This is the NHL. Chemistry is a bit of a different factor in this league, and I just wonder if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Mm-hmm. Where you look at the NBA, there's a shorter bench, and in one meaningful player means more than an entire roster. We've seen so many teams in years past that have been so successful, have amazing players, and can't put it together when it matters most. So on paper, yeah, you pick up Patrick Kane, 3 Stanley Cups, future Hall of Famer, this and that. He's got every award imaginable. But this is a big-time move, and he hasn't had a great season. I know, granted, the last couple of weeks he's looked pretty damn good for Chicago. So he comes over to the New York Rangers, but I wonder if they try to do too much in terms of bringing in egos, because I do think that's the underrated part of this story. Not saying that, Patrick Kane is a diva and loves himself and all that, but you add superstar talent. There's only one puck last time I checked, so I'm very intrigued to see how that works out for the Rangers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And ultimately, though, when you get right down to it, Nick, goaltending has so much to say about which team goes on to lift the Stanley Cup. The Rangers, obviously, with Shesterkin, you have to point to them. Linus Ullmark with Boston is having a dynamite year. The Hurricanes goaltenders are no slouches. Once Freddie Anderson got healthy and the run that Antti Ranta's been on, it's going to be a great finish to the regular season. And then the playoffs, I mean, the playoffs could just be mayhem.
Oh, it's going to be nuts. And to your point, like that's my biggest question mark about the New York Rangers. Weirdly enough, is Igor Shesterkin. I think you look internally at the numbers, specifically since January 1st here in the second half of the season, he hasn't been great. And there's no question he's been nowhere close to the guy who won the Vezina Trophy last season. Like I can't believe I'm saying that considering all the
Yeah.
additions. But as we know, every team that wins the Stanley Cup, maybe last year was the exception, where Colorado got pedestrian net mining. I felt from Darcy Kemper and still go on to win the Stanley Cup. You need goaltending, you need defense. Again, that's why I really like Carolina, what they put forth, obviously on the back end and hoping and fingers crossed Freddie Anderson, but they even have Pyotr Kochetkov if push comes to shove. But yeah, it's going to be absolutely nuts. And I think in general, you look at the season the Boston Bruins, Mike, have put together. And then on top of that, they got even better here the last couple of days. They had Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit. They had Dmitry Orlov. I'm calling him Bobby Orlov and Garnet Hathaway. Like just three really, really good additions for that team. They're going to be tough to beat in the postseason.
Yeah, they were already a wagon. They're the fastest team in NHL history to 100 points. Did it in 61 games. I mean, it is just it's been an amazing season for them. It's been great to see it all come together. And then, of course, the playoffs are going to be something to behold. He is Nick Alberga, host of Leafs Morning Take with the Nation Network. You can find him on Twitter at the Golden Muzzy. And if you look him up on Twitter, you get a chance to pick up one of the shirts that he's wearing right there. He got his wish over the last couple of weeks. Someone make a trade. Absolutely. Well, plenty of teams did just that. Nick, great to see you again, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, Nick Alberga joining us here on the program. Stick around, much more to get to, but first, here comes your play of the day.